There's a pretty one, Ulysses. There it is.
Hello BookTube, I'm Sean the Book Maniac. Welcome back to my channel. Welcome back to another book haul. You know what book hauls are, and you might know that I am buying books like a fiend during the elongated pandemic. Pace hasn't slowed down much even recently, so these books, I don't know when you'll see this video, but these are books I bought somewhat recently. First off, we have The Prettiest Star by Carter Sickles. This is a gay novel from America, from the Appalachian, set in maybe Kentucky, no, southern Ohio, small town Appalachia. Kendra Winchester loved it, very much want to read it, hope to get to it by the end of the year. Set in 1986, the AIDS era. The protagonist lost his lover to AIDS in New York City and returns home to small town Ohio. And this was a recommendation from Matthew. I'm sorry I've blanked on his channel name. He doesn't put up videos very often anymore, and I apologize. If I remember it by the time I edit it, I'll put it up here. But he put something on Instagram about this book, and I bought it immediately. That is a gay novel from Indonesia, Not a Virgin, Coming of Age in Jakarta, by Nurul Basri, translated from Indonesian by John McGlynn. So it has a subtitle which makes me think, is it fiction? Yes, it is a novel. It's a coming-of-age novel, coming-out novel, with 4 Indonesian students as the main characters. And Matthew loved it. Next up is a biography of the Scottish writer Jessie Kessen, Writing Her Life, second edition by Isabel Murray, and I wanted the second edition, which is more recent, because there was newly uncovered information about some secret in Jessie Kessen's parents' lives, I believe, of something to do with paternity, perhaps, that was in the second, but not the first. That's a lovely photo of Jessie Kessen. I've only read one novel by her, her debut, The White Bird, and I really liked it, and so I wanted to know more about her. Next up is a classic of Indigenous literature in Canada, a new classic that everybody and their dog has read, except for me. Islands of Decolonial Love, Stories and Songs. And I haven't been able to find any help online, so I'll do my best with her name. By Liane Batase-Mosaki, but I'm pronouncing it as a Japanese speaker would pronounce it. Batase-Mosaki, somebody help me out. Batase-Mosaki Simpson. Well, and I've even looked on other booktubers' channels where they reviewed books by this writer, and they don't try to pronounce the middle name, so I have done my best, and I'm looking for help. This is supposed to be really good. Lee Markle, who I've read, she said it's the sort of book she has been looking for all her life. And yeah, it looks like prose and poetry. I picked up this gorgeous copy of Harpers End, E.M. Forster's most famous novel, his best, according to many. I've read it. I read it at a time when there was a lot going on in my life, so I remember little about it. I want to reread it, and I couldn't not pick up this gorgeous Everyman's Library edition. So I only share opening sentences or paragraphs if they have some kind of standalone vitality. Should I put a trademark on that phrase? And this is the first one in today's batch that does. It's a famous opening line. One may as well begin with Helen's letters to her sister, and then it goes into the letter. This is a Blame It on Steve Donahue purchase. Oliver Loving by Stephen Merrill Block. I first found out about this on Steve Donahue's channel, and it's about a school shooting that just published a couple of years ago, I think. And the young man is critically injured in the school shooting, and a decade later he is still paralyzed, and I don't know if he's in a coma, but cannot speak, and he's paralyzed, and it's that story. And I found out about this on Twitter. Chris Olesen reviewed this on a site that I don't know much about, bookmunch.com, but I was taken with his review of this, The Boat by Nam Lee, a collection of short stories. Nam Lee was born in Vietnam and raised in Australia, and these are short stories set all over the place. First couple sentences of the opening story, which is enigmatically titled Love and Honor and Pity and Pride and Compassion and Sacrifice. My father arrived on a rainy morning. I was dreaming about a poem, the dull thluck-thluck of a typewriter's keys punching out the letters. It was a good poem, perhaps the best I'd ever written. When I woke up, he was standing outside my bedroom door, smiling ambiguously. And this is an incredibly beautiful book, and I can't remember how I found out about this African-American poet, Nikki Finney, but I did, and so I ordered her newest collection, which is just one of the most gorgeous books I've got in my library, certainly the most gorgeous works of poetry. Look at that. Love Child's Hotbed of Occasional Poetry, Poems and Artifacts by Nikki Finney. And this is like the size of a textbook, so just to show it by a regular softcover. And it's just the most unusual looking book, and it's printed on thick, heavy paper with a lot of artifacts. Post-it notes, photographs, newspaper clippings. So I have just skimmed the surface of kind of reading excerpts here and there, and I'm really looking forward to getting to it. One more of that. I'm just going to read the opening paragraph from the introduction, the one that's in kind of a red color. I'm not finding standalone excerpts from the poetry. The poetry looks gorgeous and powerful, but let me read the opening paragraph of the introduction. Each poem in this book was composed as an occasional poem. Traditionally, this type of poem would be written for a public occasion or a public reading. In the history of literature, the genre of the occasional poem is often studied in connection with orality and performance. In this poet's perception of things, orality is here, within these pages. The book is more of a performance than what the poet does when she reads from it. Well, I'm just fascinated. Can't wait to get to it. Next is a little, what the hell is this? It's a standalone short story called The Tourists by Julian Pacheco. The setting of this is Colombia. A local dignitary is hosting a lavish party at his country house. What have I heard about Julian Pacheco recently? Did she get nominated for a prize or something? That name is familiar, not for this 2014 short story. Speaking of Jessie Kessen, the Scottish writer whose biography I showed a little earlier in the video, here is another novel by her, Another Time, Another Place. Set in the summer of 1944, 3 Italian prisoners of war billeted in a remote village in the northeast of Scotland. That sounds fantastic. Here is another work of Indigenous literature set in Canada. I'm awkwardly referring to the cultural identity of the authors here because I don't think a lot of them like to call themselves Canadian, and I support them in however they want to describe themselves. So Billy Ray Belcourt is a poet, an Indigenous poet, Indian coping mechanisms, notes from the field. So Indian, that's the way they spell it in the culture, Indian. And is this poetry? Yes, it is. Billy Ray Belcourt is from the Driftpile Cree Nation and lives on the internet. That's how he describes himself in the bio. Young guy. Here is another fairly new release, Catherine Lacey's Pew, which is not about a bad smell. It's about a church. Short novel. Where is she from? I think because I have the UK edition, I assumed she was from the UK, but she was born in Mississippi and lives in Chicago. And the premise of the story is one Sunday morning, a mysterious silent figure is found sleeping in a church in an unnamed American town. And she's amnesiac, or is it a she? Oh, okay. It seems like gender is part of the issue because the pronoun they is used to refer to this person. They call them pew because they were found in a church. They don't know how to treat them. They cannot categorize them. Oh, that sounds fascinating. And has anybody read this? Wow. Opening paragraph. If you ever need to, and I hope you never need to, but a person cannot be sure, if you ever need to sleep, if you are ever so tired that you feel nothing but the animal weight of your bones, and you're walking along a dark road with no one, and you're not sure how long you've been walking, and you keep looking down at your hands and not recognizing them, and you keep catching a reflection in darkened windows and not recognizing that reflection, and all you know is the desire to sleep, and all you have is no place to sleep, one thing you can do is look for a church. Okay, I need to read this soon. Next up is a debut novel from an Irish novelist, Naoise Dolan, Exciting Times. I love the cover. I love the fact that Alex from What Page Are You On is a big fan of this book. And do I love the fact that Steve Donahue is not? No, I don't love that fact. But Alex told me that if I loved normal people, that I would probably really like this one too. I watched a Zoom panel of Irish writers a few months back, and Naoise Dolan was one of them, and I was quite taken with her. I'm looking forward to reading this. So this is about an Irish woman spending a year abroad at the age of 22, Hong Kong, etc. And I believe the protagonist is neurodiverse, but I wouldn't swear to that. And finally, like 3/4 of BookTube, I have a copy of The Vanishing Half by Britt Bennett. Britt Bennett's debut novel was quite a success for me. I thought it was really great. The Mothers, and I've heard even stronger reviews of her second novel about twins. And then they kind of separate. I don't know the details. I don't want to know the details, but one is able to pass as white, and she does, and the other one lives as a black woman. That sounds fascinating. Opening couple sentences. The morning one of the lost twins returned to Mallard, Lou Le Bon ran to the diner to break the news. And even now, many years later, everyone remembers the shock of sweaty Lou pushing through the glass doors, chest heaving, neckline darkened with his own effort. The barely awake customers clamored around him, 10 or so, although more would lie and say they'd been there too, if only to pretend that this once they'd witnessed something truly exciting. That's it. Thanks for watching.